Glen. He's the sales manager for Protex Energy. We've done some work with him. We've done some building and growing with him. We've been really impressed with what he's doing in the Texas market and really excited to continue to build and grow with him. They're crushing it on the operations end. They're doing these super speedy installs and everything. But today we're not going to talk about that. What we are going to talk about, or what he is going to talk about, is kind of the Texas market, how to master that, how to pitch that. A lot of reps are kind of transitioning away from California, and they're wanting to start selling in Texas and these other markets. And John is a master in that market. So he's kind enough to join us today, last minute, by the way, as well. I called him yesterday afternoon because we had a reschedule. We're supposed to have, what's her name from Shut the Fluff Up, was supposed to do a training with us, but she's actually doing a presentation at Latin Solar Con right now. So we're pushing her back to mid-November. John was kind enough to come on board last minute and share some information about Texas with us. So thank you so much, John, and please take it away, brother.
Hey, how's it going, y'all? Can y'all hear me? Awesome deal. Well, I just wanted to go over, I know a lot of y'all are joining with Bo and Anthony on the front with the Texas stuff, and they asked me, like he said, to bring on some, I guess, education about how the Texas market works. It is a little different in certain areas. It's an area that you got to be very precautious on. I'm just going to get straight into it. So there's going to be 2 or 3 things that whenever you're selling in Texas, it's going to be a little bit different. The thing about selling in Texas, you're going to have to worry more, I guess, and I don't want to bring any kind of politics into this, but normally if you're selling out over in California, they're normally Democratic, and people have the Democratic views. They just want to go green. Everybody else is doing it. It's a little bit different here in Texas. You're trying to tell somebody who mines coal or drills for natural gas the reason why they should go solar. You're not going to get people that are just go green freaks here in Texas. You're going to get more of the, I would say, what can you save me in my pocketbook? You know, they want to see some kind of equity added to their house. They want to see some kind of, what money can I save? What's it going to do to my electric bill? You know, explaining to the homeowner some kind of savings. It's sometimes hard. It's easy to sell Texans depending on certain areas, but then sometimes it's harder. You're going to have some really good skills at communicating and showing equity into the house in some circumstances in Texas. Some people are only going to be paying 5 cents per watt before service charges or delivery fees. On the other end, some people are paying 17 to 21 cents or even up to almost 30 cents per watt, which sounds probably low compared to California or some of these other states. I've heard some massive stories, but the average person is paying about 12 to 16 cents per kilowatt before service fees here in Texas. Every once in a while, I just came into one the other day. I couldn't even make sense of it. I was trying my best, and he was paying 5 cents per watt. It's just hard to tell him, hey, pay triple for your solar to go solar in Texas whenever they're not just about the green energy. So there's going to be some sales tactics that you're going to have to pick up probably on the Texas market that's a little bit different than California if y'all sell in California a lot or in other states. The biggest thing is showing value in your system. Obviously, showing that you're going to be able to make it to where the actual homeowner can actually put that money that they're paying to the electric provider, they can redirect that and have some kind of investment and equity into their home. That's going to be one of the big selling points. And the next one is sometimes having to cut your commissions to sell a little bit lower. And I know we don't want to hear this, just to try to beat an electric bill. So at times that's going to be the thing, but it happens. If you can incentivize the homeowner, hey, this might be $20 or $30 more a month for your electric bill than your electric bill, but hey, we'll pay the first year or 2 of your electric bill. Maybe bake something in there at the front and say, hey, talk about inflation, and then say by that time it would have inflated, but I gave you a free year of electricity. That's in some cases that can happen. Those are like going to be the main selling points. But I think the biggest thing I want to try to stay on track to is, because we like doing clean business, we like doing honest business. That's the biggest thing for me. And whenever you're relaying something to the homeowner, I want you to be able, in the state of Texas, if you're representing anybody, Bo and Anthony, whatever y'all got going on, I want you to be able to have the clear, clean information on whenever you pass something on to the homeowner, that you're giving them the correct information. And that's where the Texas market gets really, really confusing. I wrote some stuff up here on the board. It's going to be some main pointers that we're going to go over. And these are going to be things that y'all might want to take notes on whenever you're actually passing information on to the homeowner, so you're giving the correct information to the homeowner. The first thing is, whenever you're selling solar in the state of Texas, you need to figure out who their electric provider is. That is the biggest thing in the state of Texas if you're going to give honest and correct information. If you're one of the bigger companies, and there's going to be tons of electric providers, like how Texas is set up, they have like 5 major electric providers where you get to choose who your where you get to choose who you actually buy your power from. So normally, if it's a bigger name like TXU or Reliant or Green Mountain Energy, if you hear those names and it's something that you are pretty common, more than likely they're at one of these 5 major points. AEP has like an East and West division or North and West division. And then Encore, CenterPoint, and Texas, New Mexico. Those are who does the power lines in Texas. And when you're with one of these, you get to choose who your electric provider is. And that'll give you the choice of somebody like Reliant, Green Mountain Energy, TXU, or just one of the major ones. But they have smaller ones too. So you got to really watch out, like if it's Octopus or I'm trying to think, Champion, Chariot. They got so many electric providers. If you're in this area, you got a base of probably, I would guess, probably anywhere from 100 to 150 electric providers you can choose from. But the good thing about being in one of these areas is finding out, whenever you get an electric provider, you can't just go off of, hey, this is my electric provider, and assume that they're going to say AEP or Encore, or they're going to say CenterPoint, or they're going to say Texas, New Mexico. A lot of times the homeowner will say their direct electric, what's on their electric bill, but that does not mean they are or are not on one of these 4 or 5. If they say Reliant, there's a good chance if they're around Dallas area, Fort Worth area, a little bit north in that area, they're either going to be CenterPoint or Texas, New Mexico Power. That means that they Texas, New Mexico, CenterPoint, AEP, Encore, like I said, it's going to be who they transfer. That's who transfers the power from one place to the other. So that's where you get the delivery fees or the transfer fees and all that. But they get to choose who they actually buy their power from, and then they got another bill on top of it for transferring their electricity to and from one place to the house, or from the place it's being bought from to the house it's actually being provided for. When you got that, as soon as they tell you electric provider, try to find out if they're one of these. Because if they're in that area and they got AEP, they got Encore, they got CenterPoint, or they got Texas, New Mexico Power, at that point in time, that means they get to choose who their electric provider is, and they're probably in the best spot for going solar. And we'll get into this with what you're going to ask for on electric providers, but that means that they can end up with negative electric bills where they're not paying the electric provider anymore. See if y'all can see this on my camera. Where's my camera at? Right here, I think. I don't know if y'all see that negative $500 electric bill. I don't know if y'all see that. That's a negative electric bill. So, well, whenever you are in one of these areas, you can actually choose who your electric provider is, and then you can actually leave the homeowner with a negative electric bill, and where they're not ever paying the electric provider again, and they end up getting negative credits if you build the system out right. And we'll go over that again in a minute too. The next spot that you can also end up with electric bills that are negative are some of these, which are co-ops. But if they say the word co-op, Tri-County Co-op or Trinity Valley Electric Co-op, you might want to do your own investigation, because there's tons of these in Texas and not one of them are the same. And again, we'll go on to the buyback program here in a second, and we'll explain some of these extras on what to look for on these co-ops. But whenever you have some of the co-ops are also changed. They're like in hidden names. They might not say co-op on the end of it. It could say something like, sometimes they won't even just say co-op, but the electric bill might say it. But somebody says something like Tri-County or like TVEC. That's just a short term, but you need to look at the electric bill. You need to find out where they're at, find out if they are a co-op or not co-op. At that time, you need to call the co-op and figure out what they can offer for the electric provider. So I would say anywhere from, I want to say about 60 to 70% of the state of Texas, or real close to it, you can choose your electric provider. I want to say around the other 30 to 40%, you cannot. Homeowners are stuck in what they're paying. There is good co-ops, and then there's bad co-ops. I think Tri-County is probably one of the worst co-ops I've seen in the state of Texas. They don't buy back at a full cost. They'll charge the homeowner like 17 cents, buy back at 2 cents. They'll shut off at the end of the month, and they'll also what they do is every credit they store back at the end of the month. I say shut off, it wipes it clean, and then they still end up with an electric bill that's probably going to be about 30 to 40% of what you sold. Whenever you're dealing with someone like Tri-County, you have to watch out and you have to be cautious, because you could think that you're building out 100% offset or 110% offset. Technically, you're only building out 60%. So you got to be really, really careful whenever you're building out certain electric providers. I can't go over every single electric provider because there's so many of them. But if you get to choose, you find out if the homeowner gets to choose, that can sort of narrow it down. If you want to find out directly which one they're working with, they can actually go out there and send you a picture of a meter, which you normally need if you're doing site surveys. Some companies don't require you do it. Sometimes they send the guy out. But if you can figure out, normally one of these names will be on the meter, or it'll be abbreviated, like Texas, New Mexico Power. So when you see that, you'll be able to know what to build. I'm going to switch over. I know we're getting straight to it, so Let's switch over to y'all's buyback program. So we learned a little bit about the electric providers, the main power line holders here in the state of Texas, and the co-ops that we have here also in the state of Texas. And you're going to have to find those out on an individual basis. One of the co-ops that was really, really, I'll probably never sell in the city of, it's called Borne, Borne. I'll probably never sell in that city again, because they make the homeowner take a test. Then they charge us $750 for that homeowner to take a test. Then a $1,250 interconnection fee. So y'all need to make sure when you're dealing with co-ops, and then I think they only allow them to get 70%, that you're dealing with co-ops, because a lot of times those charges that they get, the companies aren't paying for those. So those just get kicked back to you. So it's very important in Texas to make sure you call the electric provider before you figure out what's going on, before you actually start building out the system and telling the customer what's going on. On buyback programs, on this, and same with co-ops, you want to find out some of these things. You need the big thing. We're getting into the buyback programs. This is going to do with regular ones where you get to choose your electric provider, and then the other ones where you get to you don't get to, but you're just stuck with a co-op, but you still need to know this information whenever you call into the co-op that you're actually working with. On the solar buyback program, on these main ones, the AEP, which have two divisions, also the Encore, the Centerpoint, and the Texas, New Mexico Power, we get to choose. More than likely, they have a company called, right now, it's called JEXA. But if I tell you JEXA today, it might not be good tomorrow. So you got to be real, real careful on that. We've been using JEXA a lot. I just heard that they raised their rates from 11.5 cents, 1-for-1 buyback, to 18 cents. So that's going to be something that you would be very, very cautious on. You don't want to tell the homeowner which one to get. You want to sort of recommend them, maybe one or two that you would recommend, but tell them what they need to look for because if it goes wrong and then JEXA changes the rates tomorrow, and then they're calling you complaining and saying, you told me JEXA, and that was the good one. Now I got a solar bill and an electric bill, and my electric bill is ridiculous. That's going to be on you, or at least the homeowner's not going to hear it. Whether it is you or not, they made the choice. They signed the contract. They're gonna automatically go to the person who gave them the advice and blame you, and that's going to hurt you for referrals and anything in the future. I always make it clear whenever I tell a homeowner to buy something. If I tell them about JEXA, not buy something, if I'm selling and then I'm recommending a company, I say, hey, I recommend this one, I would choose this one, but I want you to make your own choice. I want you to go through it. Make sure you call the make sure you call the electric provider. Make sure they got 1-for-1. Make sure they got rollover. When you're doing 10, 15, 20 deals a month, or even just 5 or 6, you don't have time to sit on a phone call for an hour to wait till talk to JEXA and try to figure out. So it's sort of base information that you want to relay to the homeowner, but then give a few recommendations. Or I think our recommendations lately have been JEXA and Chariot. They have been pretty close to really good buyback programs. On the buyback, obviously, you already know what you want. Any solar sales rep, the gold standard for solar rep selling a solar deal is finding an area where they can, every single piece of electricity that they pump down to the grid, they get that same one back. We already know it's in our spiel. It's net metering. It's the biggest thing. So the biggest thing we want to always pass on to the homeowner is going to be, this is plain, base, simple knowledge that you would know as a rep, but just depending on which electric providers y'all dealt with in other states. In the state of Texas, you want to make sure that they got 1-for-1. And you want to also make sure that 1-for-1 is rollover, because if they don't have the 1-for-1 that is rollover in the state of Texas, they might get 1-for-1 this month, they might overproduce, and then next month it wipes the whole thing clean. So it's really like they didn't get nothing. So you need to watch out for these things on whenever you're doing the solar buyback. 1-for-1 with rollover. You want everything that they produce to be able to roll over to the next month. The meter fee is going to be the next thing that you want to check. You want to try to get a lower meter fee. I think Chariot started getting the higher meter fees for 1-for-1. I think they're started becoming $24 a month. You want to try to shoot for under $15 a month. For most of them, $14.99, $9.99. Pulse Power was the best about a year and a half ago. They only had a $4.95 a month meter fee or base charge. So whatever they call it, I call it a meter fee a lot of times. Sometimes it's called the base charge. It's the main charge just for them being hooked up on the grid and using the electric provider. Now, on this, you want to obviously make sure, can all those credits that you're getting with your electric provider go towards that base fee? A lot of electric providers will allow you to get 1-for-1, but won't let it go through to the base fee. A lot of them will, though. JEXA has been very good about it. I've gotten guys that got negative $500 electric bills. Actually, this was Pulse Power just about a year ago. They had that, and they stopped it probably about a month, probably about 6 months ago or 5 months ago. Pulse Power stopped doing the 1-for-1. That's when we started switching over to JEXA. They only had a $4.95 per watt meter fee. Their electric fees were anywhere from 21 cents to 37.5 cents per watt before delivery fees. But if it's 1-for-1 and it's rollover and everything's getting credited for everything that you use, it doesn't matter if you're paying $4 per watt, as long as you built a system that makes sure that you're overproducing. So you need to make sure whenever you're selling in Texas, if you're using the 1-for-1, you want to keep it low just in case the homeowner overdoes, like they end up using more electricity, because you don't want them paying $4 a watt. And I know that's an exaggeration, but they would be mad if they ended up using just 1,000 kilowatts. You know, they would have a massive, massive bill if they were paying $4 a watt. But or 1,000 kilowatt hour, if they were paying $4 per kilowatt, they would have a massive bill if they just used 1,000 over. Opposed to if you only had it at 19 cents, they would only pay like like 1% or 2% of that, or whatever it is. You want to try to keep the base fee is low, and make sure that those credits go against that. Now, I'm doing this from the choosing electric side. Like if you get to choose your electric provider, obviously a lot of ones that are choosing their electric provider, they don't have lifetime. But whenever you do it from a co-op, sorry, my screen keeps on going dark. I don't want it to black out on y'all. Whenever you're dealing with a co-op, it's going to be a lot different. 9 times out of 10, actually probably 99 times out of 100, a co-op is not going to have 1-for-1. I mean, why would they? You're already stuck with them. There's nothing you can do. Why give up the homeowner the exact price that we're buying it back from? So they're normally going to be a little bit off. But some of the co-ops, like United Co-op, as long as you're doing like 115% offset, is really good. It might be, they might buy it back at like 17 cents and sell it to, or buy it back at 12 cents and then sell it to you at 17 cents. And then everything extra rolls over. If you're doing about 115, maybe 120% offset, that would shoot the homeowner to having a very minimal or low, or no bill at all. United Co-op actually cuts a check back at the end of the year. They're pretty good about that. Everything you overproduce, but obviously you're giving like 20% of your system that you built out back to the grid for free. Well, not for free, but for the first 15-20% is going to go back pretty much for free, and then the access will leave you with a negative electric bill that they can either cash a check at the end of the year, or they can just use like it's known, those AT&T rollover minutes from back in the day that you use on your cell phone. You could push it back down for the next year. So whenever you start having high electric bills, the next year you would have in storage. So United's a pretty good co-op if y'all are looking in the state of Texas and you want to find homeowners that you can make a decent amount of money on and sell a good system and also save them money at the same time. They're really good about that. My guys, they've been all knocking out there in Waxahachie and around that area. That's been a really good area. They got their co-op. They're in debt. There's a lot of emails going out where Navarro County Co-op is going into debt and their electric bill is about to skyrocket like 15% or 20% over the next few months. We got copies of the letter one of the guys that's out there knocking on. So if you do a little bit of studying in the state of Texas, ever since that freeze, a lot of people have been passing those costs on to the customers. And being a normal rep, you already know these things. Same thing is going to be the rollover base fees. You want to sort of see about this. I've actually dealt with some electric providers. I think Sam Houston Electric Provider is horrible if you want to build over a 15 kilowatt system. If you want to build over a 15 kilowatt system, the customer gets another $50 charge on top of the $20 base fee on top of the $15 a month for going solar fee. So they end up paying like $85 a month just in fees, just to go solar because you built over a 15 kilowatt system. I had a friend and his aunt wants to go solar with me, but they need like a 15.6 kilowatt system to give them the electricity that they need. But if I sell them about 97% or 96%, that's whenever I could get under the 15 kilowatt, and they only have to pay like $35 in fees instead of the extra $50 that goes on top of it. And like I said, Texas is insane, but just knowing what you're passing on to the consumer, sometimes it takes a little extra legwork. But if you're honest men, you want to do what's right for the customer, you want referrals, you want to always set the right expectation. And that's what I've been big about, and that's where I've been getting a lot of referrals. Literally, I could probably sit back and chill. I get referrals probably 1 or 2 times a month. I could probably pay all my bills for the next years just off the referrals from doing people right. And that's a really good spot to be at, to be able to know, hey, if I'm selling 2 or 3 of these, I might have $11,000 or $15,000 coming in just on referral basis because I did people right. The bad thing on co-ops that you need to watch out for, and even if they sounds like they got a pretty good, like real good ratio, let's just say they might not, let's just say they're buying at 12 cents and they might not be, or they're selling to you at 12 cents and then they're buying back at 7 cents. Here, I'm going to do a little bit better. Let's just say they're doing it at 8.5, which is not too bad whenever it's a co-op. So let's just say they're selling it to you at 12 cents, but then they're buying it back from at 8.5 cents. But they got this little kink right here, and it's called live time that you need to watch out for in co-op areas if they can't choose their electric provider. I don't know if y'all can see that. Are y'all able to see this right here? Yeah, okay. So live time, what live time is the minute. So it could be, they could pump 1 kilowatt in, and let's just say in the last hour they pump 1 kilowatt hour into the grid, and then it just a rainstorm comes the next hour, and it just floods, and it's dark, and the panels aren't getting as much sun as they use. Now they get that exact one back, and then they pull another one back and another one. They just sold that for 8.5 cents, but because it's live time, the big thing, live time, LIVTIME. That same exact one that they just sold for 8.5 cents, even though it's only been 30 minutes or 20 minutes before, they just sent that full kilowatt back. They're buying it back at a higher rate. So now they're buying it back at 12 cents. And then during the day, they're pumping all this in, and they're only getting 8.5 cents for it. And then they're getting back whenever at nighttime, they're paying 12 cents for it all the time. So that's something you want to watch out for. On those, majority of the homeowners, I wouldn't say all the time but I'd say most of their electricity is used during the daylight hours. But that's not always the case. You got a 9 to 5 job. You don't come in till it's dark. Then you got the TVs on, air conditioner blazing. At that point in time, you'll probably use a little bit more at night. But these are things you're going to have to find out about living conditions, what's going on, how the homeowner, how much they're using. You're going to have to be very precise and set a proper expectation that the homeowner, and I know a lot of reps do this, and I hate it when reps do this. They sell them solar like, oh, yeah, you'll never have an electric bill again. But you need to be sure whenever you're doing co-ops and even electric providers, like if you're not selling 100% off, over 100% offset, even on Encore and companies that we got this negative electric bill. Now, this guy was a real unique circumstance. We gave him 100%, and he got it, and he's got negative electric bills, but it don't normally work out like that. So you need to be selling about 105 to 107, maybe even a little bit more to make sure that the homeowner does not have an electric bill, because there is service charges, there is extra fees that you want the access that they produce to be going towards their extra fees and everything so that they don't have an electric bill. Now, I haven't ran into it too much. The live time, that's normally on co-ops, but there is a chance that electric providers might start doing that to try to be tricky, to try to rebound some of that money, because now they're not getting the $300 to $400, $500 checks because they went solar. Now they're getting crumbs or actually owing the customer at the end of the year. I don't know how long that will last, but setting proper expectations and building out the right size system is going to be the big thing in Texas. I think on the buyback and solar, I think as far as selling, the big points, those went, those are the big points and the big things about doing the homeowner right. I think that's all you really need on knowing what's going on with the electric. Now, I think we talked a little bit about building value, because sometimes you're not going to be able to beat the electric provider, but it is good when you can, but not always. It's not always going to happen like that. And I'm sure, I think Bo and Anthony mainly wanted me to tell y'all about the Texas market, but big time about Texas. We get a lot of, I want to think about it, something I'm sure a lot of y'all's other teachers have done. And is it cool if I go into this a little bit, Bo and Anthony, on getting homeowners to how to get them a yes?
Yes, go for it. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So, obviously y'all learned a little bit. Y'all doing solar or the newer reps. I don't even ask the homeowner, even if it looks better, looks worse. I just tell them, hey, we're going to give you $1,000 to pay your first few months bills. First 2 months are free. Whatever it is, I just go ahead and assume it. And it's assuming the sale. And I know y'all hear this all the time being reps. Y'all should know this. Don't ever ask the homeowner. I don't. I mean, some people do, and everybody has their own style of selling solar. I've seen really passive people, and they haven't. I saw one person that was a passive person that was able to sell, uh, and he's a good guy. He sells different. But most people that are very passive and want to ask the homeowner, what do they think, or how does it look? I don't even ask them that. I literally go into, if I know I'm doing the homeowner right and I'm doing what's right by the homeowner, I don't even ask them if they want solar. I just go ahead and start typing in their information. One thing I'll go is like, hey, okay, whenever I get done with my presentation, I try to get their heads to nod a few times in the presentation, make them agree with me, find those sweet spots, watch the homeowners, sort of see where they agree, and then sort of bounce on those points a little bit more and try to focus on those. And once I get enough agreements from the homeowner and head shaking, and I shake my head a lot to get them, I just go ahead and ask them, uh, whose name do you want on this? Or who has the better credit? Or what's your name? And I just start typing it in. I don't give the homeowners ever a time to budge. I don't give them a chance to say no. Now, every once in a while when that happens, they still say, oh, I want to think about it. I try to hit them with some rebuttals or whatever that I've learned through people like Taylor McCarthy, watching Danny Pesci from the Knox Stars. But most of the time, if you just go into the sale, y'all just go ahead and assume it if y'all feel y'all done the customer right. But just don't be over. Obviously, I mean, you're going to do what anybody's going to do what they want to. I have a big conscience on doing the homeowner right, and I hope everybody. It seems like Bo and Anthony do, so most of the people on their team probably are the same way. But I always feel about doing what's right. So if you're doing what's right, you feel you're helping the homeowner. Just assuming the sale in Texas has been really big for me. I think that's all I have for y'all, unless y'all got any questions.
Oh yeah, that was a lot. I have a handful of questions. I'm sure other reps have questions as well. I don't know if you guys want to chime in or drop it in the chat and I can ask it. But I know, I mean, and you mentioned the 1-for-1s and the buybacks and all that stuff. Is that usually determined by like those larger utilities AEP, or is that determined by like a smaller option that they can still choose after the fact? Like, how does that look?
Yeah, so that's going to be the individual electric provider that you're going to call for the homeowner to switch over to. So if the homeowner is going to call, or you're going to call, or the homeowner is going to call, sometimes I just have 2 or 3 that I personally, at the beginning of the month, or maybe every 2 or 3 months, I'll call and figure out who has the best electric prices in those areas. Those are the areas I like to target. And then I'll have it set up. Jexa, Chariot, those 2 have been the best 2 right now. Chariot does have a little bit higher service fee. Instead of it being $9.99 like Jexa is, theirs is $24.99. Obviously, it takes a little bit more credits to wipe out a $24 meter or base charge.
But they do have a buyback program to where if you do oversize it, like you said, 105 to 107, maybe they are producing another 20-30 bucks a month to eliminate that then, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, you just, and sometimes things change. You just want to make sure 105, 107 has been my sweet spot.
Sure.
Like I said, this guy lucked out. I don't know if his electric provider, his electric usage changed, but this is one of the bigger negative electric bills I've had. And that was like 5 months ago we took this. It's bigger now, so.
Yeah. For those that didn't see it, that was like what, like negative $530 or something? Was
Yeah.
that for 1 month or for 1 year?
No, that's for several months accumulated.
Sure.
So like 1 month could be a negative 137, and next month might be negative 22. Next month, negative 111, and that was like 5 or 6 months accumulated. So.
Okay. And like I said, if anyone wants to ask questions, feel free. So, let's say they're in a CenterPoint or Encore or AP, one of those larger providers. Does that mean that they're getting 2 bills, one for the transfer, and then maybe they're getting another bill from, I don't know, Reliant or something?
No, so it's all going to be
will
on one bill.
Okay.
That's going to be baked in. You're going to see a bunch of service charges right here. So you're going to see a bunch of extra charges and stuff, and then it ends up what's left over is the negative bill. So whatever the negative is after the service charges, the fees, and all that stuff come out.
It'll list
This one was actually Pulse Power.
Okay.
It's changed so much in the last year and a half. Used to, I think it was Octopus was one of the number ones, and what was the other one? There was another one that was really big before Pulse. So Octopus, and Rhythm were two of the best buyback programs about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Rhythm actually had a 8 cents in, 8 cents out, no meter fee, no base charge. It was just insane. And I don't know if they went under or they stopped doing it. Now their rates are, I don't know if the government just gives them an incentive for like 3 months or something to do something for solar. I have no idea, but I've never seen one like that. And that was probably the best one. 8 cents in, 8 cents out, roll over, no base charge, no meter fee. I actually went to add on to a system and the guy still had that.
Wow. Okay. I see Terry's hands up. Terry, go ahead. Right, she's drinking her coffee.
Yeah, I am too.
Nice to
Hey, how's it going, Terry?
okay, I have 4 questions and a comment. Does anybody want to go before me though? Because I don't want to run out of time.
Go. We got
Okay,
15
okay,
minutes
okay.
or so. Yeah. Should be good.
Okay, so my 4 questions. The net metering. So in California, they lock you in, and then when the new net metering comes, you're secure for about 25 years. With these other small little utilities, do they, when you're talking about getting Juxa and any of those, do they lock you in so you're good, or do they just kind of change it and you have to just constantly change your provider?
That's a good question. Good question. So yes, they lock you in, but it's nothing like 25 years. It's either going to be a 12-month or 36-month contract in between, sometimes 24. So they have to sort of look at that maybe either revisit it every year or up to 3 years.
Okay. All right.
Not to say it's almost like an internet or like a phone bill, like every couple
Okay.
years you just kind of be on them.
1 to 3 years. Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's normal. I mean, I've seen some that have been longer, but not on the solar buyback. I haven't seen a longer than 36 month on solar buyback. Not saying there ain't one out there, but I just ain't found it yet.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And then this was crazy to me. I was talking to a customer. They wanted to put it on their barn. And I said, is the barn permitted? And he said, we don't permit in Texas.
Okay.
I didn't probably do that justice, but that's what it was so funny. So, unpermitted structures is totally fine. That would be part 1. And then part 2 of question 2 is, do you permit solar, or does the solar just go up there?
So yes, good question too. So as long as, if we're doing the builders and electrical permit both together, sometimes it takes a little bit longer. Not all cities require a permit though. So that person might be it's sort of like the electric provider. You just need to check. We get a lot of people in like Cleburne. We don't need no permits to go. But now if you're in the city of Dallas, obviously you're dealing with the big city. It's going to take, it normally takes 45 days for permitting. On something like that, you want to watch the area and make sure that you're not selling something that is not permitted. So like if it's like the city of Dallas or Louisville, someone that's really, really strict, they're going to check permits. I think Rockwall is going to do it. There's a lot. So it's going to be 50-50 in the state of Texas. But if somebody's saying we don't permit here in Texas, they're probably live out on a farm somewhere or live on like an acre or 2 acres of land. And they're probably right. There's probably no permitting required or anything on that.
Okay.
We just have to reach out to the electric provider.
Okay. Dana is popping up a question that relates to it. Is that 45 days for the solar or the build? It's in the chat, or the build.
Yeah. So on the city of Dallas, I'm going to say this, we're supposed to wait 45 days. We could do an electrical permit or we could do a building permit. If we do them both together, it'll take 45 days, but sometimes we just do one, and we could get you installed still in those areas where other people are trying to take 45. We still get them done in 6 to 8 days. So.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
It just depends on how you file it. You got to file it a little bit different.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Question 3 is main panel upgrades. How common is that? So PG&E out here, you look at that meter and it's going to need to be upgraded. You know, just one little peek at it. Oh, you have a meter on your house. Just assume it's an upgrade. Is that common in Texas? Like, what do I need to look for to know if this needs a main panel upgrade? Would it be something like any double wide mobile home getting a 10 kilowatt for sure? Put that on there. Or like, is there any, hack that I can use to know for main panel upgrades?
Okay. Yeah. Great question. So there's a company that had a breaker, and they'll be over 200 amp, and they were called Federal. If you come across a breaker that has the word Federal on it, go ahead and put it in there. They had callbacks. They stopped making them in the 90s. Federal breakers always need to be removed.
Okay.
Now,
So federal breakers need to be removed.
Yeah.
Does
So
that
if it
mean
has the word Federal in the name of the breaker, remove that. The next one is we can clear as low as 150 amp breaker, but I always recommend a 200 amp breaker. If it's over 200 amp and it's not rusted out, it's not 30 years old or 20 years old, you should be good. If it's 200 amp, 99.99% of the time, they're not going to get changed out unless it has that word Federal on it. If it's the name brand of the company, it's called Federal. So I can't remember the exact name, but it is called like Federal Meter Associate or something like that. It's who makes the. If it says Federal on it, go ahead and change it out. Even if it says, I ran into the issue a while ago. I had a 225 amp, and I've done a lot of solar, and I've never ran into a Federal breaker till the other week. And I was doing an appointment for one of our guys, Xavier, and he knew about it, but I didn't. That Federal breakers have to be changed out. So we took a little hit on our commission. So just be careful on that word Federal. And then anything that is over, there's a good chance I could get it cleared over 150 amp. But if you want to be 100% sure, if it's over 200 amp and it's not from the 80s or early 90s, it's probably going to clear.
Okay. Not old. Okay. And last question was, you mentioned the 15 kilowatt systems, that there's a fee if you go over 15. Is that the whole state of Texas, or was that one particular utility?
That was Sam Houston. I think it's Sam Houston Electric Co-op. So again, if you run into any kind of co-ops, you want to always check. So that's just one for you to note that down. That's a good deal, but you're going to run into so many co-ops. If it's a co-op, just go ahead. If you're trying to do the customer right, which should be our main agenda as solar reps, because there's so many bad people out there that already give us a bad name. You want to make sure that you're giving the clear information over to the homeowner, so you're relaying it. So every co-op, just go ahead and make the call and find out every single rule and regulation before you're selling somebody.
Okay. All right. Note to the team. Oh my gosh, Texas is huge. Just a heads up. Like when he said 3 hours from any main city. Yeah. There's Mexico almost. That's huge. Oh, just a heads up. Like look at your travel letters, because that's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah,
okay,
it's a huge state.
It is.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for a great presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
So to kind of expand on the Federal, so is that just the individual breaker would be a Federal, or is that like the
it's the brand. It's the brand. It's a brand of the breaker. It's like if you were buying toys and you were saying, "Hey, I want to buy Fisher Price toys,"
Sure,
So the Federal breaker is the actual name brand. If you would see like compared to a car, if you're looking for a car, you can buy any kind of car, but if you have a Mercedes Benz, you have to change it out. It's the brand of the breaker. So if it has the word Federal in it, go ahead and update it so it don't come out of y'all's commission. If not, you just want to be careful. Those are I tried and I was like, is there a way we can do a line side tap? Is there a way we can do something? I tried to squeeze it because there's no adders on that. So I was like, can we do a line side tap? Can we figure something out? And it just didn't work out. So we just had to take it on that one.
All right, and then Dana raised his hand. Go ahead, Dana.
Yes, sir. Hey, John, how you doing, bud?
Hey, how's it going, brother?
Good, man. So on those Federal breakers, if it's a 200 amp and it needs to be swapped, so that's not an MPU, it's just a meter swap. Is there a difference in cost in swapping that meter and an MPU?
No. So we were talking about breakers, right?
So
MPU, main panel upgrade.
Main panel upgrade. So to clarify Anthony's question, so are we talking the actual
Federal
service meter, or are we
is.
talking about the breakers within the main service meter?
So if it's, I'm talking about the main service panel.
Okay.
That's what we were talking about, right? I hope I got your question right.
Right.
Yeah,
right,
it's just for MPUs. It'll be the MPU. It'll be a 200 amp. 225 amp. I think the one I looked at was a 225 Federal. It was the
But it was
MPU breaker.
federal, so it
Yeah,
needed
it's
the
Federal
full MPU.
Pacific is actually the name of it. Somebody just text that over.
Yeah, but maybe to
Jeffrey just
clarify
texted that
my
over.
question, so that wouldn't be an MPU, that would be a meter swap, correct?
No, MPU and meters are two different things.
Yeah, correct. But okay, so let's say the customer has a 100 amp main panel, but we need to upgrade it to a 200. That's an MPU. That's a main panel, upgrade.
Yes, sir.
On a federal that is already a 200, we're not upgrading the actual service panel. We're just swapping it out for a different kind. Is that correct?
Yeah. So if we're doing a full service upgrade where we're rerunning wires, it costs us about $3,500 to do that. If we're just switching a panel out, it only costs $2,500. So if we're taking the MPU out, we're just taking the main panel out, and we're just putting the MPU we're doing an MPU main panel upgrade. It's just $2,500. We just slap it in, change that out. It costs about $2,500.
Okay,
So
and then the other
that's
that
just
you're
the swapping out. That's nothing to do with the meter. We're actually taking. If we run into a federal, they've had a callback on Federal Pacific meters, and we have to
Okay.
literally pull those. It's Federal Pacific. Jeffrey just told me the name of it. I just couldn't remember the last name of it. But yeah, Federal Pacific. If you see that name on your breaker, your not meter but breaker box MPU, then you need to change that out.
Gotcha.
Even if it's a 200, even if it doesn't matter what size it is, just Federal Pacific, pull all those out. Go ahead and put a new upgrade on that. And then anything, we can clear a lot of 150s. If you want to chance it, 99% of the time, I'm going to get it cleared for you. So if the homeowner's got 150 amp, as long as it's not Federal Pacific, I'll get that taken care of. We'll get that taken care of. But whenever it comes to just to be safe, any company in the state of Texas is probably going to require a 200, but it could be done. 150 could be done, but just on the safe side, if you want to be super safe, if it's not 200 amp, go ahead and swap it out.
Cool. That's a lot of info. And then you said no Borne, Borne. You said
that's a city. If you hear that city, just turn down the lead. I'm joking, but it's a headache. We might not have the quick, or there might not be as quick a process in Borne because the homeowner's got to take a test. The installer's got to take a test. The test costs $750. If he fails it 3 times, we're just out $750. Both have to pass it, and then there's a $1,250 interconnection fee, which is insane. So ends up costing like $2,000 extra and then it's just a process, and you got to get. I'm not saying I'm not saying don't sell it. Do what you do, but just be aware of it. Find out from your co-ops before you deal. I literally won't even deal with it. I'm like, well, I can make $5,000, $6,000. They can have that. To me, it's. It was a nightmare the one time I sold out there, but it's like that some other places, and maybe I shouldn't be that dramatic, but if that's what y'all want to do,
marketing or
money's money and you're
whatever.
helping the homeowner out, but just be clear of some of the stipulations you have to go through when you're calling co-ops. I'm not saying there ain't another city like that in the state of Texas. Yeah. Texas is huge.
Yeah. So I do see a question from Gene, and then I see Armando has his hands up. So Gene, generally, like, what are the best cities in Texas for selling solar? Like the hottest.
I personally my guys have been doing really well out in Waxahachie. I personally like around. We're able to make some quick installs in Dallas. Dallas is huge. They get to choose their electric provider. Just anything around the Dallas area. Another electric provider I sort of tried to avoid around Dallas area is Garland Power and Lights. That's the co-op. That's the actual city owns the power, and they own the electric. They got it all mixed in with the bill: electric, water, gas. All that's in Garland Power and Lights. The max you can sell out there, it's like a co-op. It's owned by the city. Pretty much the same thing. The max you can sell is a 10 kilowatt system. They restrict you to a 10 kilowatt system, and then they buy back at 2.5 cents. But you're going to find that everywhere in the city, and they'll charge you like 10 or 11 cents and then give you 2.5 or 5 cents. They cut it in half. It's super low. And it's not as good. You need to overkill the system by about 120, 130% if you want to. But I'm not saying turn it down, but don't go. Like I said, it's very important calling when you target an area. It could be all Encore. The whole area could be. I'm just going to draw this. Like, let's just say this is. Like I say, hey, this is Encore, but you got Garland, Powur, and Lights, and then you got Tri-County. So all this is Encore except for these little areas right here. And so even if I tell you a city in the state of Texas, it's always like that in the state of Texas. You're going to run into co-ops, and then you're going to run into people, like certain electric providers only allow that. So like if I draw a bigger map, like it'll be like that, and then you'll have like Tri-County right here. You might have T-Beck on this side, and then you might have just like Garland, Powur, and Lights. You might have another co-op something. So it's sort of hard to just say target one area, but because there's going to be a bunch of little offsets, but sometimes in those, even in Tri-County, like right here around it, when you're running Cleburne and Alvarado, this is a co-op, and this co-op is really good. This one's called United, and that's a really good one. They buy at like 17. I mean, the customer buys at 17, and then they sell back at like 11 or 12, which is 2/3, but they're buying so high plus delivery fees. It ends up being like 21 cents or something. So it's a good sale. It helps you. You can overkill the system. Explain to the homeowner they're going to have a very slight electric bill. It's normally a little bit easier sell. So, but if you're going to just target an area, I would try to shoot for Fort Worth. Fort Worth has been one of the best ones, 1-day permitting, and then all the areas right there around that. If it's not co-op, if it's not Encore, it's United Co-op, like Alvarado, Cleburne, all that area. What's the other? There's another town. All that area is either going to be normally Encore or United, but there is a section out there, Lake Worth on the other side. That's when you start hitting the Tri-County. So, but if you're going to just target an area, Dallas-Fort Worth's a good area. You expand it, you start hitting. The further you expand, that's when you start hitting T-Beck, Wood County Electric Co-op. Yep. Wood County's not the best either. So, but if you're going to target one city, I would probably say something like Fort Worth. Waxahachie's a co-op. You got to call in and figure out what their buyback is, but they're getting a lot of sales out there, and they're wells. They're selling a lot lower, but they're 16.4 kilowatt systems, 17.2. Double wide trailer houses, as long as they own the house and the land, they don't have to own it outright. 9 times out of 10, they could just own the property. Be paying on it and it be in their name. Yeah. But sometimes, like Infin wants a lot of times on the trailer house them to have they actually might not own the land outright, but want to own the trailer outright. So there's just certain stipulations you want to check on whenever you're selling too. But double wide trailer houses in Texas where they own the land and the trailer, if you can find an area in Fort Worth, they got a lot of that. That's a really good one. And then the other one is like I said, just any Encore area where you can just grab Encore or Center Point. We've had real good luck in it's right around Houston, and we got. I mean, it's really quick out there too. But inner cities are a little bit harder. But the whole city of Houston, Center Point, San Antonio, around that area, it's going to be, I think, AEP. I think around Tracy, it's either Encore or AEP. So that's out there in San Angelo area.
How do you pronounce the name of the city? You said, was it Waxahachie?
Waxahachie. WAXA. Let me see.
He's got a deep Texas, East Texas voice. It's Waxahachie. And Bernie, he's saying Borny is Bernie.
Yeah. Okay.
He's like they might as well be Louisiana all the way over there.
Yeah.
How do you spell that, John?
So.
How do you spell that?
It's WAX. Hold up, I just had it right. WAXAC. Wait, WAXAHACHIE, I believe is the proper spelling.
Oh my gosh! Put it in the chat, bro. Put it in the chat.
Okay.
And he just said Monahan. It's Monahan.
Monahan's is out there. That's pretty far out.
Love it. All right, it is 2:05. Armando, did you have another question, brother? For Mr. Glenn here. I know we got to wrap this up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if anybody on the team had. Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
You can hear me? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just wondering if anybody on the team had a list of what the buyback rates are for the service providers and the co-ops of their current buyback rates.
It might just be what I'm hearing, like
That way, I mean, we're all going to start trying to do our research, but
yeah,
I think I have one.
we can build
Armando.
on a current list. And
I think I do have one. I can send it over to the team real quick. Let's see.
For all of Texas, like.
That would be nice. I heard somebody else tell me they had that. Remember, Tracy, I asked you the other day?
Yeah, but I don't have one. I need one.
Yeah, because co-ops are really weird.
Yeah.
But whenever they're in this area, it's really good. But the other 30 to 40% of Texas, it's
we can build a list.
We can start putting it together, and the ones that I know I could probably send over to y'all. And as we do one, we could add to it.
Yeah, that'd be slick to have for sure. Yeah, Dana, if you can send it on the WhatsApp so we can share it, that'd be cool. But it is 2:07. Myself and Bo have a few more meetings scheduled. But appreciate the feedback, John. Appreciate the information. As we said, myself and Bo, we've been building and doing some work in Texas with John pretty closely the last probably 6 or 8 weeks or so. And it's been good, really exciting, really positive stuff. So definitely reach out, and we'll continue to build and grow that Texas market with John. And thank you everyone so much for your time. There's a warm transfer. Terry, get on the line, hurry. Awesome. Alrighty, guys.
Awesome deal.
Thank you guys so much
have
for
a
your
good
time.
one.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
You guys have a blessed day. Thank you.
All right, you guys take care. Thanks, John.
You're welcome.